Rain all week meant no hunting, so early humans ate a deer leg that had been sitting out for 9 weeks. Nobody was desperate and nobody got sick. It was the fridge. One rainy afternoon is annoying. 7 days of it is a survival problem, and they had that solved about 400,000 years ago. So hold my scroll, this one runs on wet fur and questionable smells. And stick around, because a full week of rain handed these people one thing that a sunny week never could. Call it the rain gift. It's the reason we have stories at all. Start with where you go, because your mental image of a cave is wrong. Deep caves are bone dry. They're also dark, freezing, and already occupied by something with better teeth than you. Early humans almost never slept in them. They did use the deep dark for one specific thing, and I'll get to it because it is not what you'd guess. What they actually wanted was a rock shelter. Picture a cliff with a bite taken off of it, stone roof over your head wide open in front of you. That's the whole trick. You get a roof without giving up the daylight, so sun comes in, smoke goes out, and the rain lands somewhere else. Face it south and you're collecting free heat all afternoon. And a week of rain leaves a scar on that spot. Water runs off the lip of the stone and hits the ground along the exact same line every storm for thousands of years until it carves a shallow groove into the dirt. Archaeologists call it the drip line. It's a gutter that nobody has ever once cleaned. They still use it to find sites. Dig behind the drip line and you find where a family slept. Dig in front of it and you find nothing because the rain scrubbed that part off the planet. Hang on to that. It matters more than it sounds. Oh, and the deep dark caves? Art. That's it. The painted rooms in France sit hundreds of feet back, way past where anybody camped. They walked into the single scariest room available in the dark on purpose to draw a horse on it. So you have a roof. Congratulations! You now have a much larger problem, and his name is the fire guy. Fire is not a switch on the wall. Starting one takes real time and it needs dry material, and on day 3 of a rainstorm there is no dry material anywhere on Earth. So you don't restart the fire, you simply never let it stop. Which means somebody is on permanent fire duty. Feeding it, shielding it, dragging it backward every time the wind turns around. Later on, people carried live embers between camps inside containers so the fire never technically went out. It just moved. It's a group chat that nobody's allowed to leave, except leaving means everybody freezes. Fire Guy did not sign up for this. Meanwhile, nobody in this camp has caught anything in 4 days. Fine, fire's alive and the roof is holding, but it's day 4 and you haven't eaten anything that used to run. Foragers still living this way lean way harder on stored and planned food in the wet months because every animal worth chasing has also worked out that shelters exist, you know? So a wet week only survives if somebody planned for it weeks earlier, which brings us back to that deer leg from the start. At a place called Qesem Cave, just outside Tel Aviv, people worked something out for 400,000 years ago. They'd take a deer's lower leg bone and leave the skin on it, and that skin dried down into a seal. The marrow inside stayed good for up to 9 weeks. Then somebody cracked the bone open and ate it. That's a can. They invented canned food out of a deer 400,000 years before the can. So a wet week isn't a hunger week, it's the week you finally get around to the leg in the corner. Dry, fed, day 5. Now your bed tries to kill you. At a rock shelter called Sibudu in South Africa, there's a bed, not a pile of leaves, a built bed. Packed layers of river plants about 77,000 years old, and laid on top deliberately, leaves from a tree whose chemicals kill insects. A mattress with the bug spray already inside it. Then, around 73,000 years ago, they started torching the whole thing. Set the bed on fire regularly to kill whatever had moved in, cause obviously, Fire Guy, incidentally, now has a second job. Right, now do every bit of that with no cliff at all. Plenty of places have no stone roof, so you build one. On the shore of the Sea of Galilee, 23,000 years ago, people were making oval huts out of branches roughly 9 to 16 feet long. Those are the oldest ones anyone has found. And out on the Ukrainian plains, there's no decent timber. There is, however, a spectacular amount of dead mammoth. So somebody built a round house of mammoth bone, and one of those houses used bones from around 60 animals, cause obviously 60. That isn't a house. That's a body count with a roof. And here's the part that quietly ruins the whole genre of cartoons. That village on the Sea of Galilee burned to the ground. Then the lake rose and drowned the ashes under a fire mud. And that is the only reason you've ever heard of it. Burned, then flooded, then sealed, destroyed into existence. Because here's the twist, we call them cavemen because of rain. Most people, most of the time, were nowhere near a cliff. They were out in the open in huts and camps along the rivers because that's where the food was. And rain erased basically all of it. 20,000 years of weather shifts the soil, rots the wood, scatters the bones, and drags tools downhill, and an open camp gets deleted. A rock shelter doesn't. Everything there gets buried in dry stack layers and just sits. So when we go looking for early humans, we keep finding them in caves, not because that's where they lived, but because that's the only address the weather didn't demolish. It's like judging an entire city by the one basement that didn't flood. The caveman isn't a person, he's a filing error, and the rain did the filing. And then rain turns around and hands us the only footage that exists. Because wet grounds takes prints, and prints were the only camera the Stone Age ever had. In Tanzania, volcanic ash fell across the landscape, rain damped it down, and 3 of our distant relatives walked across it 3.5 million years ago. The ground set like concrete around them and kept about 70 footprints, which is enough to tell us exactly how they walked. In Norfolk, England, the tide pulled back in 2013 and uncovered footprints somewhere between 850,000 and 950,000 years old. Oldest ones outside Africa, at least 5 people, adults and kids, walking a muddy river bank. 2 weeks later, the sea had scrubbed them away completely, nearly 1 million years of survival gone in a fortnight, which I'm told is the correct English word for it, and not just the name of a video game. So what's the rain gift? It's the thing you're doing right now. An anthropologist named Polly Wisner recorded conversations among Johonsi families in southern Africa and compared daytime talk to firelight talk. She logged 174 of them. Daytime talk was errands and complaints. Who isn't pulling their weight? Where is the food? Who said what? Basically a work meeting with worse chairs. Night talk around the fire went somewhere else entirely. Stories and people who weren't there, and singing and ceremonies and patching up whatever fight had happened that afternoon. A week of rain is a week of forced firelight. Nobody's hunting, nobody's walking anywhere, and everybody's sitting in one room with the same 11 people and a fire. That's not downtime. That's where stories got told and told again and got better. Culture is partly just weather that just wouldn't quit. So, a week of rain wasn't a crisis, it was maintenance. They ate the food they'd stashed on purpose, bashed their gear, burned the bed, kept the fire alive, and talked until the ceiling stopped leaking. Fire guy never got a break. Pour one out for that poor fella. Alright, so you held my scroll for the entire length of this video about weather, which honestly is a personal best for most of us. Drop a like if you're never saying caveman the same way again, and tell me in the comments, rock shelter, bush hut, or house made of 60 mammoths. Pick one. You're living there all next week. Subscribe because the next time we're doing the first ever funeral. Who did it, when, and how anyone could possibly know about it. That's the one the rain didn't get. Until then, hold my scroll and give it a gentle stroke as well.